Hello, and welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Antonio Zivanovic, founder and CEO of ElektraFi, a online platform that brings financial advice to the masses. And with that, here's my interview with Antonio. Antonio, thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jason.
Thank you. Antonio Zivanovic of ElektraFi. Tell us about ElektraFi.
ElektraFi is here to essentially democratize access to great independent financial guidance for employees. And what that means is we just provide a platform that we want to empower people and give them information and insight and connecting different disparate financial sources of data to help them make sense of their data and understand that and connect with people like yourself to have insight into that and one cohesive platform.
Tell me about the origin of the company and how it came to be.
My background is in the group benefit space and group retirement savings and working with companies. And we were moving about 4 million of assets on a group retirement plan. And we set up some automations and there was a huge influx of individuals booking with our financial planner. We wouldn't have ever expected that from the actions that we did. And then through the pandemic, we saw an increase in companies being interested in addressing financial stressors for their employees and requesting many more education sessions. We knew that we didn't have a solution to scale to help people. And we weren't interested in ever replacing financial planners because we believe that they're here to stay. And we think that them working with AI is the best way forward. And so we wanted to give people a tool in their hand they could scale. And so that was about 4 years ago, the genesis started, and then it's been building from there. This year we've gone to market. We're working with anywhere from Crown Corps to large enterprise, working in a pilot right now with a large national insurer. So all of the above, and it's a quite exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically providing advice to typically unadvised cohort, right? Or cohort, I shouldn't say necessarily unadvised. They might be advised. They might be advised outside of where they are accessing you in, which is, again, these benefits programs. So the reality is that more often than not, these were typically serviced through call centers. They are one-to-many relationships. There's not a lot of customization because you might be dealing with someone who's got nothing more than $500 on one of these things or something like that, right? So doing that at scale is not something that's going to provide a lot of customized, individualized service. Talk to me about how you provide value to a specific individual at scale.
Yeah, you nailed it. We're providing a solution for the 99%, not the top 1% who have access to great financial advice. And like you alluded to, they might have $500 or they might be in debt. And so how we help individuals and provide value to them is we provide a platform where they can click and connect their bank accounts. So their bank accounts are feeding into their investments are feeding into their retirement savings are feeding in their payroll data from their employers, all in a confidential platform. So nobody else can see this data unless they specifically allow. So they can link their spousal data in there as well. We worked with Durham College. The government helped fund development of our own LLMs, and we provide actionable insights based on questions you might ask from Electra, our AI, and it's based on Canadian financial data and housed in Canada. And you might have a question around how do I reduce my monthly expenses? Our AI will look through all of your expenses, people like you, and provide you with insights based on your real-time data. Not just, hey, Jason, it's great to save money today for your retirement. It's very specific data to your bank accounts, your investments, your credit cards, your spending, your behaviors, your desired goals that you've input into there. And I think that adds a lot more meaning when you can see a clear path for your future from that data.
Yeah, it's the difference between reading a blog post and actually seeing your own numbers in front of you and how it pertains to your situation.
Exactly.
All right, so that's the general principle of it. Now let's talk about how you execute at the scale. So what are you doing to actually enable the ability to provide this quote unquote advice at scale?
We hold a lot of events. And so that's how people are getting a hold of us. We're out there, but we work through employers, through third-party administrators, TPAs, and insurance companies as well. And so we're in talks with the number right now, and we're just growing our user base. And that's how we're a B to B to C. So for some of you that are listening that might not be familiar with that terminology, we sell to businesses, and the businesses give this to their employees as an employee benefit, much like you would get an employee assistance program or access to virtual healthcare through your benefits plan. You would get access to ElektraFi, and your employer can't see any of your confidential data.
Good. I think that in the past, there's been some reluctance about that in particular too, right? It's what's my employer going to know about this? There's a confidentiality aspect here.
Yeah, and we're SOC 2 Type 2, just
Even from a
the
digital
level of
standpoint,
gold
you're as
standard.
secure as can be.
And we proactively, once a year, we pay external parties to basically try to hack in, break into things, blow things up if they can. And we're going through that right now, and the government helps support that as well. So we're thankful for that support, and we just want to make sure everything's secure and overly secure.
Overly secure is not such a thing. Just
Maybe you can't be overly secure.
not in this world, not
Terminology.
the way things are going.
Here is we can be.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the end user experience. I am a employee benefit log in to my portal. What is the first experience I have with you look like?
Even before that,
Fair enough.
you've gone through an onboarding session with your employer. And through that onboarding session, you'll be sent a unique code, and you'll get access into the platform. It can be authenticated through Google and Microsoft through your multi-factor authentication. And then you go through about 7 to 9 minutes of questions and answers that you would input manually, and you can connect to your bank accounts. You don't have to connect to any of the sources of data. For you, if you don't connect that, you're doing it manually. And then once you go through that, you have access to the platform, and it's reading, it's pulling that data, and we get access to 24 months of your previous banking history and all of those different sources. And then we're using that data based on your goals and insights, and we're giving you messaging tailored to you to help support you in the best financial way possible relative to the metrics and the information we have.
Fair enough. I would also suggest that what you're doing is a foundational thing of financial planning, which is understanding where the money is going, right? This is often the thing that causes the most delay getting a financial plan started. Most people have no idea where their money's going. We have a general idea for what our mortgage cost is and other key major expenses, but for the most part, like, we are creatures that move through the world and spend money without spending a lot of time detailing where that's all going. So what you're doing is using a well-known system of data aggregation to effectively make sure that you're able to understand who they are in terms of their spending and then direct from there. So talk to me in terms of the insights. How are you arriving at those, and what are you doing to get there?
There's countless ways that we're sharing insights. For example, let's say you're in BC and you've got a child that's turned 6, and we pick up that data through the HRIS feed. And you might not have added them to benefits. You just got on with the company. Well, and say, hey, Jason, we picked up your little Jimmy is in the HRIS, but they're not on the benefits plan. You got to add them to the benefits in the next 14 days, so they're going to be a late applicant. Also, we noticed that little Jimmy just turned 6. And in BC, there's a BC Training Services grant. It's available for your child from age 6 to 9. And that's $1,200 that you apply for that, get it automatically, and you might get more, depends on your income level. If you're lower income, you're eligible for more. But if the minimum you would get is $1,200, and then that gets dumped into your kid's RESP for free. So these are insights that we're helping you at different stages to support you. Sometimes, Jason, because we're pulling up the data feeds, they're like, oh, I'm paying 2 Netflix subscriptions every month. Like, they have all sorts of wonky little things in there that they haven't even considered.
The old latte factor. I feel like the lattes get a bad rap. I hear you. So I'm sure you've observed this. It doesn't have to be Starbucks because Starbucks could be the thing that keeps you sane if you have a busy household. But if we just give people information on where their money's going, their behavior will change based on their own calculus of cost benefit. And that benefit might simply be the time they get away. But the point is, it doesn't mean that you're going to suddenly adopt a rigid budget. You're for the most part just going to see what you're doing and say, I don't think it's worth that, and just stop doing it. Whereas I do it in an overt way, which is basically producing a financial plan and going over all this and showing them the results. You're doing it in a sneaky way, but probably an easy way, right? Like the fact that I'm sure that you're not convincing them that this is the benefit they're going to get, but simply saying, hey, this is what's happening. I'm sure you have plenty of stories of people contacting you saying, this can't be right, or if this is right, I got to change.
And I think what's important to note too is you and I really have different target markets in terms of who we're working with primarily.
Yep.
And for you, those coffees and a lot of your clients, they could have 100 coffees and it's not going to impact them. But for the individuals that we're serving, and when we're serving the masses, those $7 coffees suddenly add up in a month and make a real impact. I would argue that they make an impact for everyone, but
I will argue that basically it depends on, again, your utility function is your own. And frankly, the degree of impact, everything, let's put it this way, every dollar spent makes an impact. But worrying about optimizing every dollar spent is not a way to live your life. Okay. Basically, you've done that. Let's talk about, you guys are clearly big on data. Talk to me about what the data has shown in terms of your ability to help people move the needle.
I think what the data is showing is that for a lot of people, just giving them basic understanding of, and you alluded to this before, I don't want to repeat myself either, but a lot of people just have no clue or insight into where their money's going. So initially, the first step for a lot of people is it's a bit of a aha moment or an oh shit moment when they see, wow, this is very different from what I thought it was. And so that first step in understanding has been really interesting for people. We had an example on one of our video testimonials that's online. There was an individual working for one of our clients, and this has all been approved to be shared. Individual in Alberta was on the platform and they didn't know if they could ever buy a house. And not that owning a house is the end all be all, but that was one of their goals and one of their dreams. They never thought they could accomplish that. Through the work with ElektraFi and with the CFP that was provided through ElektraFi, they were able to achieve that dream. And what a way for an employer to add value for an employee to really change their connection to the employer and helping them understand their path to a better future for them.
Talk to me about the handoff there. Talk to me about you're doing this digitally, but then you do have CFPs that you will have on staff to support people. Talk to me about what point that handoff happens and how it's determined.
The employee can reach out anytime on their own to book that. They're only CFPs, so we don't engage with anyone else outside of CFPs because we just want to stick to a certain standard. And I think, Jason, you've talked about this openly in community. There are a lot of different acronyms that are thrown out there and different professions. And I think CFP is the gold standard.
Not the copycat, because there is one that could acronym CFP, and let's not get started on how ridiculous it is that someone else did that, but it is what it is. The actual CFP is absolutely the gold standard across the country and actually the world. Continue.
And so an individual books that session, and they can book multiple sessions with an individual on their own time and through the employer. And that's all covered in the program that's covered by the employer.
Fair enough. That's the handoff, and it's basically all handled by the employer. And you start to share some stories. Talk about the feedback from the employers themselves. What are you hearing from them beyond just the employees you're serving?
The employers are really feeling that this is a new category that's adding value and removing a lot of stress and allowing people to show up with their whole self and ideally removing a lot of just anxiety that they have around dealing with money or working with money. They feel that they're really making a difference to increase the connection point between the employee and employer because they're adding something of substance that's highly personalized for the employee and confidential. And so they know that financial instability is inextricably linked to mental illness and a leading driver of a lot of relationship challenges and mental health claims. And so they want to target this in a way that is more than just, hey, let's increase our paramedical practitioners in our benefits plan from 500 for registered clinical counselor to 700 or 800 or 1,000. That's the strategy that most employers are doing now. It's great that they want to help people with their mental health. The root cause of a lot of these challenges is that financial stress. So this is a way that they want to target it that is different than the traditional because this hasn't been available to people in the past in the same fashion.
Fair enough. It's an interesting one, right? Because at the end of the day, financial stress is one of them. The simple solution is to say they should just be paid more. No, like from a business standpoint, it's not necessarily something reconcilable, right? But the ability to help people do better what they have is frankly, and I'll say that it's not a solution if people aren't doing well what they have, right? There is certain levels of income where, yes, unfortunately, it's not possible to make a good go of things. But there's also, frankly, behavior that we all need to learn, which is living within our means at the end of the day, because anything but that is not sustainable. So the reality is that sometimes throwing more money at the situation is actually not solving the underlying problem. Whatever you can do to help them make the most of what they have and learn good behavioral habits is an investment that takes a fraction of what a salary increase across the board would cost, but can have a far more meaningful impact, not just now, but in the future.
I agree.
Collective.
Someone gave me some advice one time and they said, live 2 years behind where you're at.
Hmm.
So not even where you're at now, 2 years behind. And
Yeah.
then you shouldn't end up in a problem at any time.
Whatever heuristic you need to in order to make it work, it's like anything else. The best diet's the one you stick to, right? So if it is the thing that helps you basically succeed, even if it isn't the most optimal or rational thing, it's working, right? It's working. As long as it's not hurting you, you're good.
Agreed.
As far as you taking the platform today, care to share where you hope to take it in the future?
Yeah, for sure. We're looking at adding on tax filing service for the employees because we just
Perhaps.
see that as
Like
a
that's-
financial stress for a lot of people. And there's just a lot of anxiety and it's a messy process. So we have all the financial data, we have all the employment data. And then if we're missing some because you've got side hustles or what, you can input that data manually. That'll be pre-populated into the tax documentation. I see building out a network with CFPs that we can help connect a lot of people to great CFPs because they're in the companies that we're working with. We're not just capturing individuals that are part of the 99%. There are those top 1%, and a lot of them don't have service and great service either. So we want to be a conduit to refer them to great vetted CFPs who are in our network that we know can take care of them. And for a lot of those top 1%, their expertise and what they need exceeds our platform. And so we want to be the bridge and conduit to help support those connections. And we also see huge opportunities. There's just endless opportunities. Wills is another area that would be an easy tack on for us, but maybe we partner with someone. And with open banking, I'd love to see open banking coming in Canada. But
Well,
I think,
you're not I'm a realist. It ain't happening, but continue.
yeah, we were on with the FCAC today, like the financial literacy department for the government. And I don't know if I see this happening even in 2026. I would love it to, but it's definitely in financial institutions' best interest not to have this. It hurts consumers dearly. We can just take a page out of Australia's book. They've done it extremely well. The UK has been had open banking for, I don't know, 50 years.
Oh, and the Americans had basically their own version of it, driven by free market enterprise. So the reality is that there is zero bloody argument to the support to their argument other than fear mongering and other than the fact that they just want to not make it easy on consumers and be predatory. So I can go off on a tangent, but I will also say I did an open banking 4-part series years ago that really was utterly depressing because of just Canada's position in it. And I can tell you right now, nothing's changed. So I shrug my shoulders.
Shocking, disappointing, sad for Canadians.
Until there's political will willing to drive it down the throats of the banks, it ain't going to happen. Until then, they're going to use some platitudes and some words and whatever else. I've literally been in the room with them as they refer to it as their data, and I've lost it on them, saying pretty sure there's laws that say it's not. So maybe you need to wake up to that. But no, it's going to be pried from their cold, dead hands. All right. So never mind how Canadians get screwed over by the financial institutions. We can come back to that for a longer conversation another day. All right. So what I love about what you're talking about is effectively you are looking at all these things that cause people aggravation, right? And pain and fear, right? Taxes are scary to the average person. This is why they're often avoided or rushed to be done because people don't understand them. The idea of owing CRA is very upsetting. You name it, it causes a lot of aggravation. So if you can help facilitate that, so be it. And wills, the reality is no one wakes up and says, I need a will today. They're either scared into it or a financial advisor or someone else pushes them to do it. That's the reality of it. It just doesn't manifest itself out of nowhere. So if you can put those things in front of them and be the squeaky wheel that helps them get the thing done, that is a service. Even if they maybe have a complicated situation, should be doing something better than just the basic one. An imperfect estate plan is better than no estate plan. So glad to see you're working on that. So we covered a lot here. And before we end the conversation, I want to ask you 3 questions then on a positive note. The first one is, if you had one wish or something you'd change in your company, the industry as a whole, what would it be?
I wish employers would take action to support people for their financial well-being and really make the link between financial instability and mental illness. That hasn't been fully done yet, but I believe it's coming. When I see an abundance of investment coming into companies like ElektraFi.
I don't think they made the connection, but the data is there. We have already proven that a mind that is under financial duress actually increases stress. When you're increasing stress, it's as if you get dumber, like legitimately. Your brain is just not process information the same way it does when it's at rest or at peace. And therefore, it is entirely reasonable to extrapolate the fact that people who are under constant financial duress are likely to be performing at suboptimal levels because they're not even able to operate at the level of intelligence that they have. So it is anyone who's familiar with that kind of behavioral finance structure, like to me, you said it to me, like, yeah, it may not be mental illness. Maybe it is mental illness. You call it whatever you want. But is there a penalty being paid productivity-wise for it? 100% there is. So there is definitely an upside to having happy employees.
The research says 2 to 11 hours of lost productivity on average per week per employee. And Harvard's latest research said 4 hours of lost productivity due to financial stress a week per employee. That's a lot of zeros for most companies.
It is, and it doesn't take much to move the needle if you provide the right resources. Yep.
Great.
So second question I have for you is, what's been the hardest part about getting the company to where it is today?
I think being a non-technical founder, building a technical application for sure.
You said many interesting things, like your engineers have looked at you like they want to strangle you.
Oh yeah, this is going to be this quarter.
Scream in the background as you do.
Yeah, I think also we ran into a lot of challenges with all the calculations that integrate and work with each other. And then having the code base work with that, because you introduce another calculation, another lifestyle parameter, and that blows up all the rest. And so that was actually quite challenging. The total comp and rewards module was actually a lot more robust and challenging than we thought it was going to be. And it's no wonder why no HRIS, ERP, or payroll provider that we know of does that very well. Everybody says, oh, we've got that module, you can purchase it. But instead of calling it total comp and rewards, they should call it partial comp and rewards. And then when it's partial, you're missing a key part of the picture. That doesn't make sense either. So it's kind of garbage. And so that's why a lot of companies don't even purchase those extra modules with these HRISs because they suck.
That's one of those things people say they want, but then it's demonstrated behavior versus the companies will either hear about this and say, hey, we can probably sell this to clients, but then they aren't really isn't their language, right? So when they sell it to them, they don't do a great job of explaining the benefits or designing around those benefits. So you get a suboptimal thing that no one adopts and the company doesn't care, right? Or counterpoint is they listen to their employee or their clients who tell them they want X. And more often than not, anyone who's ever been in software knows when your clients tell you they want X, they want everything. The question is, are they actually going to use it? And more often than not, the answer is no, because that involves some sort of change in behavior or structure that they haven't committed to. So it's not surprising to me that someone who's come in from the outside with more of a mindset towards doing the right thing around it has gotten more inroads because you've been more purposeful and specific.
And then are they going to pay for it?
That's the other part is that, yeah, are they going to pay for it? Because this all, I think it's harder when you're out there proving it the first time. Given you've been at this for a little while now, you can show some metrics and potentially and actually talk about the companies you've worked with in the past. I'm sure it must be an easier conversation now than it used to be.
Yeah, late years ahead of where we were even just last year. It's hard introducing a new concept to an organization, especially when you have such sensitive data and you're connecting to people's bank accounts and going through a Crown Corp and all the due diligence that you have to go through. And then also working with a big national insurer, like the amount of due diligence that we've gone through with lawyers and all sorts of financial experts and IT security experts. It's way easier now because we've gone through those questions as well. And plus we have really good testimonials of individuals and security company CEO founders who've experienced the platform and they use it themselves. So the more that this happens and the more success stories come out, I think people are getting more comfortable with it. And I feel as AI permeates through all the seams and nooks and crannies of all of our lives, there is a group of people who are going to be more comfortable with that. And obviously different groups aren't going to be comfortable and maybe they're never going to use a platform and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we'll help the people we can.
That's just it. You can't help those who aren't willing to let you help. And then the last piece comes down to the last question I have for you is basically what gets you out of bed every morning to keep on fighting the good fight?
It's not okay for me to end my career or just call it quits when I see there's a path to there's a better way. And part of that is just empowering people with the information to get started. I just don't think the banks are doing that well and not serving people well at all. And it drives me crazy. And I think there's a lot of predatory systems in place that are harmful for people. And I've got 3 young boys who are ages 8, 6, and 4. And I don't see a roadmap in their future for them to understand their total financial well-being. And so I'm just one guy out here trying to make an impact, and I'm pulled by what I see now. If you asked me today, Jason, would you start ElektraFi? Probably knowing what I know now, I probably would have said, hell no, because it's too hard. It's fucking hard. And it's really hard. And there's been a lot of tears in the family. There's been a lot of challenges, but it's something now that I see. I can't unsee what I know and how we can help. And so I want to leave a legacy where we give this to kids at schools for free. And we're helping make an impact and changing the trajectory of a lot of people's lives.
Well, it's just, I can make this an entire anti-bank rant, but the reality is your well-being, their consumers' well-being doesn't even factor into their calculations anywhere whatsoever. There is no metric for client success in their world. Anyway, such is life. Keep it up. Good work. Glad to see you're bringing some good advice to the masses. And I thank you for your duty.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So that was Tony ElektraFi. And basically, if you are a business owner who is interested in empowering their individuals or your employees to be happier and healthier and better control of their finances, please take a look at ElektraFi. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or is it your podcast? Until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.